What is up, geeks? So I saw Suicide Squad, and I have to say that although the critics have bashed it like they've bashed every DCEU movie, this is my favorite DCEU movie, and probably one of my favorite comic book movies. Not top five, not maybe top 10. I'm not really sure. I still have to watch it again. I watched it only once, so I'm definitely looking forward to watching it again. But it's definitely like maybe in the top 20 easily. But it was such an enjoyable, fun movie. Although there were so many things that they could have fixed, they could have done better. It's definitely not a perfect movie, that's for sure. But I have to say, it was a fun movie. It's one of the most fun I've ever had in a movie theater watching a movie because it was just great to see all these characters come to life. Although the storylines were not perfect and there was a lot of discombobulation, it was just the way that they characterize these characters. It was just perfect. They had the perfect on-screen Harley Quinn. Oh, and FYI, again, before I even say any spoilers, there will be spoilers in this video. Just a warning, of course, if you haven't read the title by now or the description below, there's spoilers. But anyway, perfect Harley Quinn. Margot Robbie did an excellent job. Jared Leto, I don't want to say perfect Joker just because there is no perfect Joker. There's so many different interpretations. Mark Hamill has a perfect Joker. Heath Ledger has his own perfect Joker. They all have done a great job. Cesar Romero, Jack Nicholson, Jared Leto now is part of that legendary, you know, legendary cast of people to be part of the Joker lineage. It's great, and he just did an awesome job. He was probably, for me, creepier than Heath Ledger's Joker, a little bit scarier, but I don't think he's as threatening just because he has a love interest. Remember Heath Ledger's Joker? There's no way you can basically like try to win him over. You know, money, power didn't matter. He was just pure anarchy. But this one is a little bit different. You know, he falls in love with Harley Quinn, and it was a great storyline between the two of them. And the reason why I'm mentioning these two is because I think these are the strongest points of the movie. These points that I'm saying right now are by far my most favorite points of Suicide Squad. I'll keep on going with the positive stuff, and then we'll get into the negatives, and then I'll tell you overall what I thought about the movie. But yeah, it was such a fun movie to watch. The way that they introduce all the characters is something I haven't seen before, and I wish that the critics gave more credit to that because I have to say, those introductions were brilliant. It was so much fun to see all those things. You would think that it would become monotonous, it would get really tired real fast, but for me, with the music and everything, it gave a great tone to the movie, and I think that's what DCEU has to do moving forward. Go with this kind of tone instead of the very dark and dreary tone that they went for Man of Steel and BVS, because that tone really worked well for Christopher Nolan's trilogy for Batman for Dark Knight. But here, since you have the supernatural and you have things that you can't take seriously, you really don't need to take yourself seriously. Like, being too serious was the downfall of BVS. So although I love that, I don't want to say love that movie. I liked that movie. There was a lot of things they had to improve upon. Man of Steel was a little bit better, and then this one, I think, was a lot better than the two of them. I know it still has a really bad score. Now let's get into the negative stuff. I do understand how people who do not follow comics or aren't fans of DC, they can get lost in all the mix. So I understand where they're coming from. With me, I think, if you're a DC fan, a comic book fan, this movie is just so good. It's a lot of fun. But when you are a newcomer into it, like especially with the Joker and Harley relationship, I'm sure a lot of people were entertained by it. But at first, I'm sure it was kind of weird. They didn't really explain a lot of things. They kind of made this movie for DC fans, just like how they did for BVS. And so I guess moving forward, we're just going to have to accept the fact that maybe these kind of movies aren't going to be critically acclaimed like the Marvel ones. just because they're going for a different thing. They're making movies for the fans, which, to my surprise, people are complaining about that. I think back then people weren't, making movies for the fans, and they were complaining back then. But now it's like the opposite, and people want critically acclaimed movies that appeal to the general audience. So it's a bit of a, it doesn't make sense, flip flopping. But anyway, back to things that I didn't really like. The villain was, I mean, Enchantress being the villain. I saw that coming, but with the brother, whose name is Incubus, who's a very obscure villain. People don't really know. It just doesn't make sense why you would have to make him the villain. You could have made Joker the villain. You could have done so many. There's such. What made me upset is the fact that DC has a huge array of villains that they could have used. Especially Batman villains. I mean, there's so many Batman villains out there that you're not going to be able to fit them all into one Batman movie or into a trilogy, so you might as well use them in the DC universe. It just didn't make sense why they would choose somebody so forgetful, somebody who did not even say much. I mean, Incubus barely said anything. Enchantress was dancing around most of the time. So the villain choice was very bad. Not as bad as, I'd say, the Green Lantern movie. I'd say that was probably the worst villain in cinematic history for superhero movies. But this one is definitely up there in the worst of the worst. It was just forgettable. It wasn't, the action scenes were pretty subpar too. I do like the dialogue a lot better in this movie than the action scenes, which is, I mean, it's a good thing. But at the same time, you want to remember the action scenes. It's a superhero movie. The greatest action scene that I remember is the Will Smith scenes when he was showing off his skills, and also, well, showing off his skills twice. He did it in the shooting range, and then he did it out in the field. But otherwise, everything else is pretty forgettable. So they could have done a lot better with the action. But they did focus on the relationships with the characters, which was the good thing. But again, the negative thing would be the action was so just it was average, and when you have action scenes like Civil War had, it's gonna pale in comparison. So I'd say those are mostly my negative things. Everything else is pretty positive. If I had to give a score of this out of 10, I'd probably say a 7 out of 10 for me. Definitely gonna watch it again, maybe a 7.5. We'll see. But it was not as bad as people thought. I would think that Rotten Tomatoes would at least give it a 50%. I mean, it's up there with Man of Steel. Definitely up there with Man of Steel. So I don't understand what Rotten Tomatoes is doing to DC EU, because even BVS didn't deserve the score it got. It should have at least gotten a 40%. I mean, to me, I would grade BVS maybe in the 50s as well. Suicide Squad in the 70s. Man of Steel in the 60s probably. I would, just to backtrack, I think I gave Man of Steel a 7 out of 10 as well. And I really enjoyed that movie. It's a good movie. The storyline was great. Visually wasn't as appealing as BVS. BVS to me is probably a 6 out of 10, 5 out of 10. Maybe I'll just give it a 5.5. And this one is a 7.5. So it's a little bit better than Man of Steel. So anyway, guys, I want you to let me know how you feel about Suicide Squad. It's a very controversial movie because of the fact that it's been so critically smashed upon, and then the fans like it. So it's just, what do you guys think? Do you think they could have improved upon it? Also sound up below. Do you like my Robin t-shirt? Do you like my setup for my pop vinyls? I don't know. I think this is the first time I've actually shown this on video. So I have my Star Wars stuff up here, all my pop vinyls. Not all of them, but a good amount of them, a good chunk of them. And then I have my Marvel ones, also just a good chunk of them. These are mostly the Avengers. I do have my X-Men set up somewhere else, and I will be doing a room tour. I know somebody commented and asked if I will be doing a room tour, and yes, I will be doing a room tour. I just need to get my place cleaned up, and yeah, there's just a lot of stuff I have to do. Giveaways are in the future, so stay tuned for giveaways. Don't worry, guys, I haven't forgotten about that. And of course, at the bottom, I have my DC setup here. These are not all of them either. I do have the Suicide Squad figures that I reviewed, so if you haven't seen those, please check those out. And of course, I have my Stormtrooper helmets up top here. Very excited, guys. Very excited for all that's yet to come. I mean, next year's Wonder Woman, Justice League. It's going to be great. And I think this was a better starting off point for us to reveal the bigger DCEU rather than BVS, to be honest. Unfortunately, this movie had to be the one to do that. I really thought that BVS was going to be the one to really start it off in a good way, but I think Suicide Squad is a step in the right direction. Hopefully, they continue in this trajectory because, you know, I want DCE to be up there with MCU. So, guys, I am a DC and Marvel fan. How about you guys? Are you more leaning towards one side? As far as right now, if I had to choose in the cinematic universes, Marvel is definitely kicking butt compared to DC. But one more thing, I know there's a mid-credit scene. I thought it was pretty cool because it actually mirrored an interaction in the Suicide Squad comics. Amanda Waller and Bruce Wayne, they see each other, and she says a line at the end, something like something about him working nights, revealing basically that she knows that he's Batman, which, you know, it's almost you wonder why Bruce Wayne would be interested anyway, so it's a little bit weird, but it's cool to know that Amanda Waller in this universe knows that he's Batman. It's pretty awesome. So a lot of great stuff. Speaking of Amanda Waller, Viola Davis, she was great. Probably one of the best performances in the movie compared to Harley Quinn and Deadshot. Again, there's so many things I could have talked about. I don't want to make this video too long. It's already 12 minutes. But Will Smith, he was awesome. He didn't take over the whole entire movie like I was thinking he would, and I was feeling paranoid about it. But he did really, really great. Would love to see him in a future Batman movie, maybe just a small cameo or something like that. Anyway, I didn't realize I've been rambling for this long. Thank you guys for watching this whole video. And of course, until next time, embrace, express, and enjoy yourself. May the Force be with you always, my young Padawan.